Guys, this is a preview that I'm doing of Iron Harvest. It's in open beta at the minute on Steam. If you want to play it, you can go to Steam and just download it now in open beta. It comes out in September. It's a game I've had my eye on for a while, and I finally got to play it. And damn, I'm very disappointed, guys. It has a campaign, it has Skirmish, and it has multiplayer. You can play co-op in Skirmish, and you can play against other players in the multiplayer. But let's quickly look at the campaign. There's 3 factions in this. There's Poland, Russia, and Germany. They're not called that in the game. It's like, for example, Germany's Saxony, I think. So it's that kind of timeline. You play as different hero characters in the campaign. And it's alright, the campaign, the story-wise, but where it's let down is the AI is atrocious in the campaign. You can just lead them into ambushes and then they'll run away, then you can just go and lead them back into the same ambush and they'll happily come back to the same ambush, then run away, and they get the numbers depleted each time they do that. It's the cover system. There's different barricades and cover systems in the game where you can put your troops behind, but more often than not they'll choose to be at the wrong side of the barricade, or you'll put 3 guys behind it and the other 2 will just decide not to, because your squads is 5 units and you put them behind barricades and they'll just rush out when they feel like it. The AI just decide that, hey, I've got a really good barricade here, but I'm just going to run at you in melee with my fists. So why would you do that? It's just nuts. It's just crazy. The AI is atrocious, guys. It seems to be pathfinding issues more than anything, to be honest, where they just don't know where to be, whether to go left, right, up, down, this side of the barricade, that side of the barricade, and more often than not you can just plow into them and shoot them while they're totally undefended. Let's talk about the skirmishes, because there's different maps: 2-player, 4-player, 6-player. I've been playing against the AI on all difficulty levels, and I didn't really find much of a difference in intelligence. They generally just spam units around the map, capturing all the resources points that they can, and then they'll leave them and then run to the next one. You retake them back, they'll then come back and retake them off you. It's a giant game of cat and mouse running around the whole battlefield. There's no set battle lines, there's no big kind of strategically tactical encounters where there's like 4 or 5 mechs v 4 or 5 mechs with a load of infantry units just trying to gain a little bit of ground. There's none of that. You basically are just running around the map, capturing stuff. Hugely fast clicks per second required. Half of the shortcuts don't work. You can't shortcut your barracks or your workshop, for example, and if you do shortcut an infantry unit and put them into a building, that shortcut no longer works, so you can't just click, say, number 1 on the keyboard and go straight to that unit. It's all a mess, guys, at the minute. It really is. Grenades are just like throwing a cheap firework. They don't seem to do any damage, yet your heroes are so tanky, it's unbelievable. It's just a shame. I would personally like to see some static defenses near your own base, and maybe at key locations on the map, just to make it so that you can't tank rush, in a sense of, well, infantry rush. You can't just run around the map willy-nilly. I'd like to see sort of blockers put in place so that, you know, you just can't get past them until you've got, say, artillery or big heavy cannons. Just something to slow the pace of the game down. Because as it is now, I don't find it enjoyable. I mean, other people might, but I don't find it enjoyable running around a map, constantly trying to defend an iron mine or an oil mine, which is your 2 currencies, and then having to lose it again. Because if you go and start building machine gun nests around all of your mines, by the time you've done that, the enemies took over the whole battlefield pretty much. So you don't have time to do that at the beginning of the game. You've got to keep depriving the AI of resources by constantly going and taking them off him. Because if you don't, he'll build up a big army and steamroll you. So you are forced into a game of cat and mouse, which I just didn't like at all. Whereas if we had static defenses that we could take over, say with engineers, so that the enemy couldn't just run around the map and start stealing all your resources until he's got enough big mechs to do so, that would make the game a lot better, because you could have a bigger army, you could have some really good tactical shootouts with them. But as it is now, it's just cat and mouse. Also, the factions aren't really very different from each other. I mean, in a lot of RTSs, look at StarCraft, look at how different the factions are from each other. In this, it's kind of the same. You do get a couple of different mech types, but they all kind of are the same kind of class. Like, for example, instead of machine gun, you'll get flamers. which basically do the same job. Buildings as well should offer more protection. I find that going into a building sometimes is a bad thing because sometimes you guys don't shoot out of it, and they just still seem to take shit tons of damage while they shouldn't. I don't understand the way cover works in this game. It just seems to be a bit kind of hit and miss with the way it is. I would have thought being in a building is the safest place to be, just shooting out of windows, but apparently not. When you're in a building, you still take quite a lot of damage, certainly far too much in my opinion. You should take a lot less if you're in a building. And I think I've already mentioned that units move too close to each other when you give them an attack. If you say to your unit, go and attack them, they'll go far too close. Sometimes just charge in melee, you know, even though they've got guns. The amount of times I've seen the AI charging a heavy machine gun nest with a bunch of engineers armed with a Luger. It's like, what are you doing? You're going to get massacred. It's a mess, guys. It's a mess. But it isn't out yet. It comes out in September. That's not long, I know, but you know, they are fixing things quickly. There's a lot of patches being deployed for this game at the minute, and it needs it. I'm not sure if it's going to go into early access or if it's a full-on release in September. My goodness, if it's a full-on release, they've got the work cut out between now and then. I will review it when it comes out. There are good things. Let's end on a good thing. There are good things about the game. I love the mechs. I think the mechs are fantastic. It makes a change to having tanks on the battlefield. I love it when they're just stomping through buildings and they're firing. The animations of them are good. I like also the fact that you can pick up enemy weapons. So, for example, if you have a cheap engineer unit armed with just pistols and you see an enemy unit that's just died and they've dropped their gun, they could have flamethrowers or machine guns. You can pick that up and you become that unit essentially. So it's a cheap way of getting expensive units. So I love that. I love the whole way that's kind of implemented into the game. I love the maps. I think the maps are very well designed. They look very atmospheric as well. They've took a lot of care in the maps, I think. In fact, do you know what? I didn't find a bad skirmish map. I thought they were all great. The problem is it's the game mechanics that are kind of spoiling it for me. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there, guys. But I have on good authority from developers of this game. There's a lot of posts by them on Discord and the forums and various other places that they are fixing pretty much, well, most of the things that I've just mentioned in this video. But I had to say the way it is now because this is how it is now in open beta. But they have mentioned that they are using open beta to identify weaknesses and tweak the numbers of the game. So it is going to change before the game actually launches. I hope they do fix everything that I have mentioned, or certainly implement a few of the things on certain maps, for example. It would make a big difference. But as it is now, it's a bit of it's all over the place, but it is open beta. You have to remember that, and the game is not out yet, so I'm reluctant to really judge the game too harshly until it comes out, because beta's beta, guys, at the end of the day.